My name is Alejandro, and 5 months ago, I could only say hello, thank you, and coffee, please. I was a shadow in my new city, a skilled architect from Madrid whose voice had been stolen by the sheer, terrifying weight of English. My new job in Chicago was a dream, but it was a silent dream. In meetings, I smiled and nodded, a constellation of confusion orbiting my head. My designs, once explained with passion, were now reduced to frantic hand gestures and the humiliating phrase, "I send email later." The breaking point came on a bitter January afternoon. I was in a coffee shop and the barista, after my mumbled order, asked with a cheerful tilt of her head, "And what's the story behind that cool accent?" I wanted to tell her. I wanted to say it was from the sun-drenched streets of Seville, that it carried the rhythm of flamenco, but my mind blanked. I just blushed, took my coffee, and fled. In that moment, I didn't feel like an architect who had moved across an ocean for opportunity. I felt like a ghost. That night, I made a decision that felt both desperate and defiant. I gave myself 5 months. Not to become perfect, but to become alive in this language. I would build my English like I built my structures, with a foundation, a framework, and relentless iteration. Month 1. The demolition and the foundation. I realized I had to demolish my fear of being wrong. I enrolled in no traditional classes. Instead, I became a sponge. My rule was simple: English only. I changed my phone's language. My Netflix became a textbook. I watched everything twice, first with Spanish subtitles, then with English, then with none, trying to absorb the music of the sentences. I discovered podcasts for English learners, and my commute became a chorus of careful voices explaining phrasal verbs. My apartment walls transformed into a chaotic collage of sticky notes. Ceiling, windowsill, to charge, to unlock. I didn't just learn words. I labeled my world. It was messy, childish, and humbling. But the foundation was being poured, one word, one sound at a time. Month 2, the framework, structure, and sound. I needed a skeleton. I found a grammar website and treated it like a daily gym session. 30 minutes every morning, drilling tenses until I have been working. Felt as natural as he trabajado. But grammar was the bones. I needed a voice. I discovered the shadowing technique. I would play a short audio, clip from a clear speaker, often a news anchor, and repeat it immediately, trying to match the rhythm, the pitch, the feel of it. I sounded ridiculous. I recorded myself and cringed at my thick accent. But slowly, the muscles in my mouth began to remember new shapes. I started talking to myself constantly, narrating my actions like a madman. I am walking to the refrigerator. I am opening the door. The milk is expired. I am disappointed. Month 3, the brickwork, the messy middle. This was the hardest phase. The initial excitement faded, replaced by the grind. I had a vocabulary of 1,000 bricks, but no mortar to hold them together smoothly. I forced myself into terrifying situations. I joined a weekend hiking group from an app. The first hike was agony. Jokes flew past me like birds I couldn't identify. My contributions were slow, deliberate, and often met with polite, puzzled smiles. I went home exhausted, my brain physically aching. But I went back. And I started using a new app, one for language exchange. I met Linda, a retired teacher from Ohio who wanted to learn Spanish. For 1 hour, we'd talk half in English, half in Spanish. She was my first patient listener. She didn't correct every error, but she would gently rephrase what I'd said correctly. "Ah, so you felt overwhelmed in the meeting?" She gave me the gift of being understood. Month 4, the breakthrough, windows, and light. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday. In a project briefing, my manager was describing a client's vague request. Without thinking, the phrase popped out of my mouth. "So, it sounds like they want us to read between the lines." My manager stopped, pointed at me, and said, "Exactly. Yes, it was an idiom. I hadn't studied it. I had absorbed it from a TV show. The dam broke. Words stopped being individual translations and started being concepts. I began to think in English in flashes. I dreamed in a strange Spanglish soup. I started to understand sarcasm. The biggest leap came when I stopped trying to construct perfect sentences in my head before speaking and just began. The sentences were wobbly, sometimes grammatically creative, but they flowed. Month 5, the interior, soul, and story. In the final month, my goal shifted from communication to connection. I wasn't just conveying information. I was trying to convey me. I started reading novels in English, underlining phrases that struck me. I began to sprinkle my speech with the little fillers that make language human. I mean, to be honest, I told my first full joke in English, a pun about a ceiling and a wall that was met with genuine laughter, not pity. I even argued with my cable provider on the phone and won. The victory was sweeter than any contract. The culmination. 5 months to the day after my coffee shop flight, I stood in front of my team, my managers, and the client to present the final design for a new community center. For 20 minutes, I spoke. I talked about flow and light and communal space. I answered questions, parrying technical queries and even making a light-hearted comment about Chicago's wind. My accent was still there, a soft melody of my history, but it was no longer a barrier. It was a texture. After the presentation, the client, a formidable woman in her 60s, shook my hand. "That was incredibly eloquent," she said. "You have a real vision." I didn't just say thank you. I looked her in the eye, the words solid and sure in my chest, and said, "That means a great deal. This project has been a journey, and I'm so proud to share it with you." I had built more than a language in those 5 months. I had built a bridge. I had taken the lonely, silent ghost of myself and given it a voice. I learned that a language is not a wall to be scaled, but a house to be built room by room, lived in and filled with your own stories. You start with a single trembling brick, coffee, please, and before you know it, you are building cathedrals. My journey was not about talent. It was about obsession. It was about embracing the humiliation, the exhaustion, the daily feeling of being a child in an adult's body. It was about speaking when every cell in your body screams to be silent. It was about building a new self, in a new tongue, one imperfect, courageous word at a time. And if I could do it in 5 months, with nothing but stubborn will and the world as my classroom, then trust me, so can you. Your voice is waiting. Start building.